Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, aka the guy who's tighter than Perceptors Receptor, and this video we're breaking down Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy EARTHRISE. The title feels longer than the series itself, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a lot to unpack from it. Throughout this video we're going to be breaking down our thoughts on its story, ending, and what we can expect in part 3, which we now know is titled Kingdom. Obviously, there will be heavy spoilers here, so if you haven't had a chance to check out the series yet, then I highly recommend that you check out now. Make sure you smash the thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for breakdowns like this each and every day. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into Transformers Earthrise. Okay, so the first chapter, Siege, saw the war between the Autobots and Decepticons as both sides tried to get the Allspark. At the end of the season, Optimus Prime threw it into the space bridge, which hurtled it across the universe in a moment that was very, well, if I can't play with my ball, then no one can. Now, using the arc that was supposed to take him and the rest of the Autobots away from Cybertron, he journeyed into the bridge with a small sect of soldiers whilst other ones remained on the planet, and they become some key characters in the entry. The space bridge itself actually exploded, and though it seemed like the main characters might be dead, all the optimists out there, they held out hope. Thankfully, the post-credit scene revealed that they were indeed still alive, though exactly where they were was completely unknown. Now, I know some of you just want to learn about the ending of this season rather than having a full recap, so I've left a timestamp of where that begins in the video just in case you want to jump ahead. Now, if you're still here, yeah, sod those lads. And as we predicted last time, the Quintessons sort of play a big role in the entry, and we watch as a group of mercenaries hired by them end up rescuing the Autobots. This is a big I told you so for everyone who said I was in the wrong last time, but I'm going to be dropping a lot of theories at the end of this, so I'll probably be getting them wrong, and that'll be complete karma for me. Now, in case you don't know, the Quintessons are actually an ancient race that are known as galaxy-wide traders and businessmen. They possess advanced technology and travel the universe looking for life forms to deal with, so it does make sense why they come across the Ark. This sets up one of the key storylines with the Autobots, which sees them trying to locate the Allspark and retrieve it so that they can help their allies back home. That plot point also kinda ties into the next focus, which centers on Elita 1, who remained on Cybertron at the end of Siege. She pretty much steps into the shoes of Optimus Prime this entry and helps to lead the resistance. Now, the old phrase is Decepticons keep on Decepticoning, and we discover that Megatron has been putting both his allies and the Autobots in prison camps. Realizing that Cybertron is a dying world, he's decided that the best way to survive is to vacate the planet, and you very much get the strategist side of him in this season, rather than seeing him simply as a ruthless dictator. Early on, we discover that he's been harvesting the spark from both Autobots and Decepticons in order to power a ship known as the Nemesis. He even altered the fighting arena into a giant laboratory, and this idea of something once filled with action and entertainment being made into something more cerebral actually reflects the storyline itself. The Dark Lord heads up his own empire, tries to get one of the protagonists to join his side, and though he could be seen as evil, he cares only for his race's survival, which makes him a really compelling villain. Now, the Star Wars comparisons don't stop there either, and because we know this is a trilogy, you kinda go into it with the mind state that it's gonna leave a lot of things up in the air, and it certainly feels like a middle chapter throughout. I hate the phrase, it's the Empire Strikes Back of blah blah blah, so I'll use a better one. It's the Attack of the Clones of the series, and by that, I mean it's far more grounded than the first entry, and instead of all-out action, it focuses on character development and the key players going on their own arcs in their own groups. Hey, that's Empire Strikes Back. Now, I don't want to force the Star Wars comparisons anymore, but if Elita 1 and co are the Han Solos of the story, then Optimus Prime is very much the Luke Skywalker. Captured by double dealers mercenaries, they're taken before Decius, who operates in the shadows as one of the villains in the entry. I love how they referred to it as the Breaker of Shackles. I don't know if that's a reference to Daenerys in Game of Thrones becoming the big bad, but it was appreciated. Like Danny, it freed a lot of life forms such as the Autobots and Decepticons so that they would not have to live lowly lives. However, they rose up against the Quintessons, and DCS very much wants to get revenge for what it sees as an act of betrayal. Now, what I always loved about the design of this character is the fact that it was pretty much a living council that had to deliberate over decisions. This allowed for multiple personalities to come forth and made for some excellent dialogue scenes. However, we don't really catch the character in its prime, and pretty early on, the dominant one takes control. Now, like DCS, this had me split, and I wish they'd not had the other characters head off, as I'd been looking forward to their appearance for a while, especially the puns I'd been saving. Now, I get how this idea of one person making all the decisions instead of democratically is reflected in Megatron, but I'm not sure if doing this was completely the right decision. The main one is still pretty fun to watch though, so I can't really complain too much. Now, after turning down Megatron's offer, Elita 1 and co escape, as does Optimus from DCS. They travel to a stalled space bridge in the Nebulon system, which has a station keeping it open. This Mary Celeste-esque star cruiser seems completely abandoned, but we learn that it's actually inhabited by a Scorponok. This fan favourite actually hails from Generation 1, and it was binary bonded to Lord Zara, who was the leader of a faction of Nebulons. Scorponok is actually a triple changer that can alternate between a giant scorpion, which is how we're first introduced to it, a giant, and a defense base. We only really see the scorpion and default form, but you know, we've got some time to talk, so I thought I'd just add that in to be as informative as possible. After tracking the Ark through what seems like the help of Double Dealer, the Decepticons arrive just as Optimus is about to blow the station, and he and Megatron have a big battle. As always, it's amazing seeing the two opposing leaders face off against each other, and this fight actually made me realise that they want the same thing, they just go about it differently. Both have regrets, and they actually have quite a good exchange in the aftermath of their fight, which cements that both are pillars of their societies, opposite ends of the spectrum, that create a necessary balance. Through Scorponok, we discover that the Quintessons ruled over him and his people, and that they controlled them with an iron fist. Scorponok sees the Decepticons in Autobot War as being nothing but a game to them, and this sets up the latter part of the series. It ends with the Autobots and Decepticons arriving on Earth before they're ambushed by Odysseus, and they then crash land on the planet. Here we watch as Dinobot discovers the Ark, and this obviously hints towards a lot of things going forward. Now, in order to fully discuss this, we have to talk about one of the big flashbacks of the series. There is a point where we catch Alpha Trion and Skylynx fighting for the Matrix, and the former banishes the latter to a dead universe. This is similar to the original run, in which he was cast out, and like that, the character has gone on an inner journey in which he's conquered his own demons. His opposition to Trion is of course mirrored in Optimus and Megatron, and through him we discover that the Matrix is within Optimus. Believing that the bearer of the Matrix is the key to saving Cybertron, he helps the group, and Megatron also discovers Galvatron, who very much acts as a guide for the antagonist. Now, Megatron and Galvatron are very much one and the same, with the latter being what I'd consider the future version of the character in many respects. There's very much a reflection of the good guys and villains having their own people that want to guide the next generation down a certain path, and this introspective look at what's come before and what could come arguably feels like the most human part of the season. I actually believe that we see the end of their arcs played out here, and I think that in Kingdom, when Optimus gains the Matrix back, that we will see how corrupting it is once more. Skylynx stated that he will have a choice, and I think that the Matrix will push him even further down a darker path, but that he will fight against this and eventually succumb to what it does. Skylynx says he must either allow the Matrix to find its next path and sacrifice himself, or usher in a much darker future. Now, in my opinion, doing the first choice will allow for an alternate version of himself to step forth, much in the same way that we were introduced to Galvatron. I think that Optimus could emerge in a new form, and this could be why Megatron calls him Orion. Now, Orion was before Optimus, and the chronology is a bit off on that when compared to the original run, but I think this idea of dual identities is hinting towards things coming down the line. Now, I'm not going to put my Amazon Prime on it being Orion instead of Optimus, but obviously, let me know if you think he will take on a different version. Now, we know that Megatron needs to become Galvatron at some point, and I think that the Matrix may actually be the key to this. We've already seen how it changed Optimus and made him give in to his darker side, so when coupled with Megatron's more charming personality, who knows what's going to happen. Again, I know that's sort of different to what's come before, but those are sort of where I see things going. Now Galvatron clearly comes from a timeline in which he's a slave to Unicron, who I believe will become the big bad of Kingdom. In case you don't know, this planet-sized machine is actually a supervillain that's appeared in many Transformer timelines, and he should be seen as a sort of god. Unicron can devour realities, and it brings chaos wherever it goes. Thus, I think the new forms of Optimus and Galvatron may have to combine in order to take it down. Now in the original timeline, Megatron clearly lost, but this journeying of his past shows that he wants to prepare his younger self for what is to come. He instills this idea of hatred further into Megatron, and thus he may destroy Unicron before he even comes to power. Galvatron also passes forward the Golden Disc, which is a very important object in Transformer lore. This carries a message on it not only about Earth, but it's also the key to unlocking transwarp technology. Now the season ends with us seeing Dinobot, and in the Beast Wars animated show, he was actually part of a group of Predacons that stole the Golden Disc. This was their mission, and I kinda have a feeling that in the first timeline they succeeded. The disc was then likely given to Megatron, which is why he was able to take it and then pass it on to his past self. Now this is a lot of timey-wimey wibbly wobbly stuff, but by my count that means that there are 2 discs in the past. There's the first one, which was in the original timeline, and then the one from the alternate timeline, which was given to Megatron. We know from the future version that he does eventually get it, but him handing it over to his past self means that he never needs to send Dinobot to get it, which creates an alternate timeline. I'm as lost as you are. However, this does leave room for Dinobot to question what side he's on. I think that's similar to the Beast Wars animated series, that he will switch sides because of this alteration. Now the synopsis that we have for Kingdom states, worlds collide when the Maximals and Predacons join the fight, coming together with the Autobots and Decepticons in an epic battle that will alter their destiny forever. This not only hints at the Predacons and Maximals being a part of it, but the word alter also signifies to me that a lot of things are going to change. We already have leaked toys for the next season, which show the characters in their Beast Wars form, including Optimus Primal and more. So this idea of altered states is further coming through, but whether we have time to do another switch or not, I really don't know. Now I actually think that the show will go beyond the trilogy, and after the War for Cybertron one ends, we will get a new one that carries on from it, though this is obviously still unannounced. I think this is where Galvatron will be dropped and so on, as the next season will probably be too tight to introduce it along with all the Beast Wars stuff. I know some of these theories probably sound a bit off, but clearly things are changing, and stepping back and looking at everything, that's what makes the most sense to me. Now as for the show itself, I did really enjoy it, and I think so far they've done a great job of rebooting the franchise. I love the way they're pulling Beast Wars into it too, and this feels like a complete and concise collection of the chronology. Though the characters on Cybertron kinda got put on the back foot, I still feel like this entry did a lot in terms of character development, and I'm really hyped to see what happens next. The last series dropped in August, so hopefully it won't be too long before we get the next one, and if it's here before the summer, I think that'll be amazing. Anyway, this was great, and I'm scoring it an 8 out of 10. Now the winners of last month's competition are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at HeavySpoilers, and I'll send you over a copy of the 4K Lord of the Rings set. The giveaway was so successful that, for January, we're being extra generous and giving away 3 copies of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings 4K box set to our subscribers. All you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the season. The winner's going to be announced on the 30th of January, so make sure you keep an eye out. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of his Dark Materials, which will be linked at the end. We go over the entire second season, so it's definitely worth checking out if you want to know more. With that out of the way, thank you for sitting through the video. I've been Paul, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.